Hey everybody, welcome back to Climate Microdose. Today we're going to talk about radioactivity and polymetallic nodules. That's right, those wonderful things that they want to mine from the deep sea to create all of our renewable energy. Did you know that there was radioactive materials in there as well? Well, we're going to talk a little bit about that today, up next here on Climate Microdose. So we're taking a deep dive. I do it all the time, but this is deep dive of Climate Microdose. This is just me. Anna's not with me today, and we're not live, obviously. But I would love for you to like, subscribe to the content here. It helps me, helps out what we're trying to accomplish. And then please feel free to ask questions in the comments. I'll try to get to everybody as best as possible. So today we're going to talk about radioactive risks of polymetallic nodules. Now, there's going to be a lot of probably things that we talk in here that we might need to clarify. So I'm going to try to do that as much as possible. So let's first have a look at a few things. So the polymetallic nodules, what are they? Well, they are these mixtures of different types of metals. And there's a number of companies that want to exploit that and take that from the deep. But at what real cost? Later, we'll talk a little bit, in another video about the financial implications of this. But today, we're just going to stick to the radioactive components because this is something that, no one is talking about. And there was a significant paper. And so, anyway, as we embark on this journey, take ourselves away from what it is that whatever we do on a daily basis, we're exploring this fascinating topic of deep sea mining, but the radioactive dangers it poses. Now, on this particular video, we're going to dive into the findings of a recent scientific study called Alpha Radiation from Polymetallic Nodules and the Potential Health Risks from Deep Sea Mining. This was authored by a team of brilliant minds by Volts and collaborators. Now, this was published in Scientific Reports in 2023, and this paper reveals crucial insights in how polymetallic nodules, these enigmatic treasures of the deep, could pose a significant health and environmental risk to us. Now, the paper. Let's talk about this because I would love for you guys to break this down and maybe read it yourself, but if you don't have time, we'll try to do as much as we can here. And forgive me if I mispronounce a few of these names, but I'm doing my best here. The authors of this paper have focused on this particular type of study. This was conducted by researchers from the Alfred Wegener Institute of Helmets. I knew I was going to do it. The Alfred Wegener Institute Helmets Center for Polar and Marine Research in Germany. Whew. Okay. With contributions from the University of Bremen and the Merriam Center for Marine Environmental Studies. Now, this study is a testament to human ingenuity and the relentless pursuit of knowledge. Lead author Volts and colleagues offer us a window into this radioactive elements embedded within polymetallic nodules, particularly those nestled in the Clipperton Zone deep within the northeastern Pacific Ocean. Now, the Clipperton Zone, we covered a little bit on the last video called Dark Oxygen, but it's an area from the Big Island of Hawaii all the way to Baja Peninsula. Polymetallic nodules are like these cosmic debris that are scattered across the ocean floor. The mineral-rich deposits that have actually captured the attention of scientists and, unfortunately, industry alike. These nodules are rich in metals such as nickel, copper, cobalt, and manganese. These are elements that are crucial for the technological advances of the green revolution or the electrical revolution that we would depend on moving forward to get rid of the idea of using fossil fuels, but at what real cost? So this study by Volts and her team illuminates that these nodules are not just mineral resources, but they are vessels of naturally occurring radioactive materials. This presents risks that have yet to really be fully comprehensible. Now, let's talk about the key elements of these particular nodules. So in this particular quest of understanding, this study brings to light several key radioactive elements that are found within these nodules. This includes Thorium-230, Radium-226, and Practinium-231. These elements are born from the decay of, uranium, a process as old as the stars themselves. Thorium Thorium-230 and Proactinium-231, with their long half-lives and high reactivity, are scavenged from the seawater and concentrated into the iron manganese oxides that form the core of these nodules. Now, you have to remember that we're talking about thousands and thousands of pounds of pressure, because these nodules are located in an area 3,000 to 4,000 meters beneath the surface of the water. So let's talk about the accumulation and concentration of these radioactive materials. Now, over millions of years, the slow, steady accumulation of these radioactive elements within the nodule mirrors the cosmic process that shapes our universe. And as Volz and her team describe this accumulation through the scavenging, absorption, and settling of particles from the vast ocean that goes onto these nodules. These processes, even though they're slow, often just millimeters per million years, result in high concentrations of radioactivity. So this is something to be definitely concerned with. The study continues, and it finds that these activity of thorium-230 in the sediment surrounding the nodules can reach up to 3.2 becquerels per gram in the uppermost layers. But within the nodules themselves, these levels are even higher. Indeed, they can often exceed regulatory exemption levels by a factor of 1,000. A stark reminder of the hidden dangers lurking in the deep. That's 1,000 times what we think is the safe limit for humans. So let's talk about some of the health risks that could be associated with such an exposure. Now, as we look into this tale of this understanding, the most alarming aspects that's revealed by this study is the health risk associated with mining and handling of these nodules. When these nodules are brought to the surface, well, what they do is they crush them during the mining process. And that crushing creates a dust, a fine particle that's released into the air. This dust is composed of material from the nodules, carries it out with the highest concentrations of radioactive isotopes, like the ones that we've mentioned. If we got into a situation where these particles were inhaled or somehow ingested, they could lodge deep within our lungs, emitting alpha radiation, a very powerful yet invisible force that we need to be aware of. Although this alpha radiation cannot penetrate our skin, it is highly damaging to the delicate tissues within our bodies, significant increasing of the risk of lung cancer, and furthermore, the decay of radium-226 into radon gas adds just this another layer of danger that's particularly in closed spaces. So obviously, like if you're crushing things on the vessel or you're just storing them, radon gas can accumulate there. And then, according to the study, if it were to be processed on land, the same thing could happen. So if we look at now this next step, the story's not done here. The environmental impact of deep-sea mining is another chapter in this unfolding saga. During this mining process, a slurry of seawater, sediment, and nodule fines are often released back into the ocean, into the water column, creating a discharge plume that spreads like a cosmic nebula through the depths. The plume carries radioactive particles that can be ingested by marine organisms, potentially entering into the food chain and affecting ecosystems in ways that we are just only beginning to understand. Now, there's a lot of discussion about this, and there is a lot of studies that are currently being done right now to really look at what the effects are of these massive plumes. One thing that we do know for sure is that when carbon is sequestered from the atmosphere and it goes into the ocean beyond 1,000 meters, it generally will stay there for an indefinite period of time. But as we start mucking around, pun intended, we start to bring all of that up into the water column and then releasing. So one could also argue is that if we're trying to acquire these nodules to create the products to go to a green revolution so that we can rid ourselves from fossil fuels so that we don't have CO2 production, well, would we be in fact pulling up CO2 from the seafloor while we try to stop emitting CO2? You see the quandary there. Anyway, so going back, the study by Volz and her colleagues warns us of this far-reaching consequence of radioactive discharge, which could lead to widespread ecological damage, maybe even the contamination of seafood. I mean, yeah, sure, we're talking about carbon and all these kinds of things, but, and you might think of like, oh, well, I'm going to eat this lobster or this, crab. You don't ever stop and think, well, is it contaminated with some type of, radioactive component? That's super scary. So this poses another risk to human health, but it's a stark reminder that our actions do have consequences, even if they are unintended, and they just ripple out sometimes like shockwaves of a supernova. So as we continue to think about this, the regulatory challenges that lie ahead are kind of in a state of flux. The authors of the study highlight that there are gaps in current international regulations which may not fully address the unique risks posed by radioactivity of polymetallic nodules. Volts and collaborators stress the urgent need for stricter guidelines and safety protocols to protect both the explorers who brave the deep and the environment that we all depend on. They suggest that a comprehensive study of safety measures, including effective respiratory protection for people who are in those general areas, proper ventilation of storage, and rigorous environmental monitoring so that we make sure that, obviously, nobody gets hurt. But when we think about that particularly, it's like, what if they're bringing these nodules to Los Angeles or some other place where they dump them off for processing? How, is there now a radioactive plume that we can't see that's surrounding these areas? These are things that we all need to kind of consider as this becomes a potential reality. So what does the future look like? What is the future of deep sea mining? So I want to kind of conclude on this. We are in this very kind of exploratory phase on so many levels, not just, can we, from an engineering perspective, get down there? Does it actually even make sense for us to do that? But there really are no regulatory frameworks. There is the International Seabed Authority, which is a group that was created through the United Nations framework. At present and currently, there are 32 countries that support a moratorium. That's a ban on deep sea mining until we have more information and more science. And I think that's a wise decision. It better not to go down there. After all, Spindletop, 1901 is when, we really got things moving in the oil and gas business. And prior to that, we killed sentient humpback and sperm whales for spermaceti fluid. It didn't make sense to kill sentient beings to light up our lamps on the street. And so we found this black stuff out of the ground, but that black stuff out of the ground, as we all know, had an unintended consequence of climate change. So that's really what this moratorium is about. It's about really saying, well, what other risks are we headed towards that we're not really thinking about right now? The radioactive one is not one that we actively talk about, and we don't have very many conversations about this. There's conversations on finance, exploration, the engineering challenges, but there are not conversations about radioactivity, and I think that's the biggest one here that we really need to think about. So it's imperative that we weigh all the benefits against potential dangers to ensure adequate safety measures are in place that protect both those who venture into the deep end, the planet that nurtures us. So that's what's happening. That's what's going on in this particular space, and I'm very curious to hear what your thoughts are on this particular subject. So do me a favor, shoot us a message down at the bottom of the comments here. Let us know what your thoughts are, and let's keep the conversation going. And if there are any other experts out there that know about this particular paper, put your comments in here too. If there's something that's not accurate in what I've said today, let me know. But this study is pretty alarming, and I think it's something that we should all be worried about. Well, that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching. Until next time, hope that everything is going well in your neck of the woods. But why am I taking a pencil and pointing at the camera? I don't know. This is what happens when I just have random things sitting on my desk. Anyway, that's the end of the video. Take care, guys.